Welcome to Thrive Inside, a live stream series dedicated to enhancing the lives of indoor cats through thoughtful nutrition, wellness, and environmental nutrition. My name is Sally Williams. I'm the founder of Mission Meow, a national organization making meaningful, lasting change for small, feline-centric nonprofits all across the U.S. Today, we're joined by Dr. Katie Woodley, an integrative veterinarian and founder of The Natural Pet Doctor. Dr. Woodley began her career in conventional veterinary medicine before expanding into holistic and integrative approach to care. Today, she helps pet parents understand how nutrition, gut health, stress reduction, and environmental enrichment all work together to support lifelong wellness for cats and dogs. Through her educational platform, courses, and clinical work, she focuses on identifying the root causes of health issues rather than simply managing symptoms. She's also passionate about helping pet parents create healthier environments for their animals, especially indoor cats whose physical and emotional needs can sometimes be overlooked. Dr. Woodley, we're so happy to have you here today.
Thanks so much for bringing me here. I'm excited to dive into this important topic for our cats.
It's so important. So let's just jump right in. You started in conventional veterinary medicine and later evolved in holistic veterinary care. So what sparked that shift for you?
Yeah, so obviously when you go to vet school, you're taught the conventional side. And so I went to vet school in New Zealand, and I actually lived on a little lifestyle property. And I've always been more holistic and natural myself. And same with my husband, who was then my partner at that time. And I was interested in learning more. We had a week-long integrative introduction that I could take as a little side thing in vet school. And I, of course, took that because I knew I'd be coming back to the States at some point, and a lot of people were interested in that. And kind of got started in vet medicine in New Zealand. And I realized I don't really enjoy this type of work. All the pets are really sick and we run out of options, right? We get to the end and cancer, autoimmune diseases, you have chronic allergies, and I didn't have enough tools in my toolbox. Now, fast forward about 2.5 years after graduating and working in New Zealand, we moved back to the States. And my husband, 6 months after moving, developed an autoimmune disease. And this changed everything. So I was thrown into the world of gut health. He was diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease. And we quickly realized that there were not a lot of solutions for this. And we were told there's not much you can do. And usually the medications stop working and they can even create a lot of harm. And so we started looking for other solutions, essential oils, we ate pretty healthy anyways, but looking at different types of diets, we started looking at Western herbs and other modalities to really figure out, because I never really truly believed that there was nothing we could do. The body doesn't just break. There's always a reason for why. And I wanted to learn more about how we could rebuild it. And so this is something where through this entire process, it really kind of drove home for me that I was doing exactly the same to my patients. I'm telling them there's nothing more we can do. That never resonated well with me. And so that's when I became acupuncture certified, Chinese herbal medicine certified, learned more about natural nutrition, how to integrate that, dove into Western herbs. I use a lot of different modalities now because I never want to tell someone there's nothing else you can do. And so that was a really kickstart to my journey, and also a big reason why gut health is so important to me, because that's the world I've lived in with my husband and our own health journey along the way. And through that process, realizing that pretty much every condition that our pets get, there will be a gut health component too. And the connections with emotional health, environmental health, stressors, detoxification, all those things, everything is interconnected.
It's so interesting to hear you talk about that, because I personally had a similar journey, and it definitely influenced the care of my cats. I have autoimmune disease. And when I started diving into it and looking at a more integrative and holistic approach for myself, it opened up a whole world for me and my pets. It's so interesting to hear you say that, because that's often what happens to people. They have an experience for themselves, and then, wow, it opens their eyes.
Yeah, I'm now not surprised at all when I hear my clients tell me they have the same health condition as their animal. It's very common.
Yeah.
I know, isn't it remarkable? I thought I was the weird one at first. I'm like, why is
No,
it,
I'm weird
like
too.
I'm having these tummy troubles and my cat is, or
Yeah.
whatever. It is. It's more common.
It is very
Mhm.
common, and I think it's one of those things where I always tell people because a lot of times people can feel shame, right? They're like, I caused this.
Yeah.
And for all the like pet parents listening, you did not cause your pet's condition. But I think this is where the power is in being able to see the interconnections. We live in the same environment. We share the same stressors. We share the same like toxins.
Mhm.
And so this is where once we start realizing these different factors that are all connected to whether we have optimal health or whether we have a health condition, this is where we now have the ability to make those changes to improve things for both ourselves and for our pets.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to, this really ties into like probably how our journeys were. Many people hear the term holistic care, but feel like it can be a buzzword. Like,
Mm.
because, and there's a good part to this, I feel like, because we hear it so much more. Like pet parents are talking about this a lot more, but they don't always understand it. So, how does holistic pet care, pet health actually differ from traditional veterinary care?
Yeah, so this is really important because I do speak to a lot of more natural pet parents, and I do hear a lot, I never want to use medications again. And I'm very upfront and transparent where it's not either this or that. It's about bridging the two modalities together. So your Eastern and Western medical approaches, because the conventional side of medicine is very important. We need it, especially in acute care, emergencies. It is life-saving. I've used it. I've had 2 cats go through aggressive GI lymphoma, and I used chemotherapy, and it prolonged my kitty's life and allowed me more time with her. So this is where understanding the limitations, but also when to use it appropriately is really key. So I like to use the term holistic with a W. So a true holistic approach, looking
I
at the
like
whole
that.
body. And that's where I love science. I am very science based. I have the Chinese medicine base. I love bringing the two together.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't mean that we don't follow science either, but we're looking at the tools that have traditionally been around for thousands of years that medicine actually developed from. And then also, too, we're not looking at just symptom suppression. We're looking at asking different questions like, why is the symptom there? How is it connected to other parts of the body? Which then leads us to getting better results when we ask better questions.
I love the way you explain this because I know that there are people who have gone to, we want to be completely holistic. We want to be completely natural. And there's room, like you said. I mean, unfortunately, you've had kitties with cancer. I have had two. I mean, not two, also. I've had five now, and their lives were extended. And the way it worked was bringing those modalities together. We use traditional oncology care, but then Chinese herbs were a huge part of our pet cancer journeys, along with acupuncture. And so I think it's wonderful for people to hear on both sides, whether people are more traditional veterinarian or simply want to be holistic, that bringing these two together is important at times.
100%. I think one of the key things too, and I know we're going to dive more into it, is keeping in mind too, it's not always a physical aspect. It's not always about giving something. And that's where the environmental enrichment, understanding the emotional health component, because energy always precedes physical form. And so that's really important too, where a lot of people are like, what can I give for this? And we end up using holistic medicine like conventional medicine, where we're trying to treat a symptom, but we're just using an herb or some other like holistic modality instead, versus looking at that bigger picture too.
Mhm. You're just trying to fix as opposed to looking at
Correct.
the reason why it started in the first place.
Correct. And your root causes, like root cause, I talk about root cause medicine a lot. And that's a term that also gets thrown around a lot. And I think this is also important where your roots of why that condition are there will change over time. So as the years go on, the reason for the conditions starting years ago will be different. And that's something looking at my husband and his autoimmune journey. The reasons for why that happened years ago are not the same reasons that can create stressors on his body today. And I think that's really important for pet parents to understand too. And once again, it just comes back to being the observer. And I know we're going to be talking more about what to look for to see, is my cat thriving or are they just surviving?
Yeah. I love that. It's so important to be thinking about, and it happens for humans too. We just are treating symptoms, not getting to the root cause. And we can be advocates for our pets and not accept that. We need to be looking for the root cause. Yeah.
100%.
Same with humans. What's one misconception about holistic veterinary care you wish more pet parents understood? Is there one that's just jumps out?
I think we already covered it, right? Like it's the whole, never using conventional medications. And, this is something that I speak to every single one of my clients with every single day, is that when we understand why a symptom is there and why we're using a medication and how it works in the body, we can then complement it with a more holistic approach in terms of these are the supplements we can use to reduce side effects. And then also look at, okay, what do we need to do to heal the body or get it to a place where we don't need that medication anymore for quality of life? So I think that's once again really important. Just because I say I'm holistic, it doesn't mean I will never use or recommend a medication. And if you're using medications, it doesn't mean you're a failure either. I think that's really important because we get, even including myself, if I feel like I have to reach for a medication or if you can't 100% get off a medication, a lot of times we're like, I'm failing myself or I'm failing my pet. And that's not the situation. So I think that's really important also. And it's really about using the right tool at the right time, right? And we have so many more tools in our toolbox when we, once again, we bridge the two together and really truly use that integrative approach.
And gosh, I would hate for any pet parent to feel that way.
Yeah,
And,
it's common.
and also that energy is felt by our kiddos. So,
Yeah. And I think food is a huge component, right? It's a pillar of health, nutrition. And this is also where I have a lot of clients that if they're on a prescription diet, they feel like a failure too. And I think it's one of those things, if you have to feed certain types of diets, we're going to talk a little bit about what to look for, right? But if your pet's doing better on that type of diet, this is where looking at what other things can we implement, like digestive enzymes, using cat grasses, right? Like that's so helpful for introducing nutrients and supporting that digestive health. That can complement knowing that this diet may not be optimal for my cat. However, the biggest thing is always looking at, they're feeling really good right now. Okay, what are other tools I can use? Not shaming yourself where it's like, I'm failing them. I'm not helping them. I'm hurting them.
Yeah, I love that. That actually is a perfect segue to going into what we were going to talk about next. So we're talking about gut health. Why is gut health so central to a cat's overall health?
Yeah, I wish I'd learned more about gut health in vet school. So that's one of my missions, is really educating vets and even vet students to learn more about the gut health and where those connections are. We know that over 80% of the immune system is in the gut. And this is where I work with mainly gut health and skin allergy components now, because it's so common in both dogs and cats. And what I find is missed most of the time, especially with allergies, is they didn't even look at the gut. And the symptom originated from the gut and the immune system imbalance. And so this is where it's, gut health isn't just about digesting. There's the microbiome, which is trillions of different microorganisms that are speaking to the immune system, that's connected to the skin, it's connected to the brain. So when gut health is off, yes, of course, we can see more vomiting, diarrhea, those GI symptoms, but we can also see allergies, itchy skin. We can see hyperesthesia with kitties. That's a really commonly undiagnosed condition.
That blew my mind when I heard the connection to feline hyperesthesia in the gut.
100%. And this is also where the connection to detoxification. So if these kitties can't detoxify, inflammation builds up, and then also to the gut-brain axis. So for all these anxious kitties, once again, a lot of times what manifests when we have a lot of anxiety or stress in cats, they get stress cystitis. Then they go on antibiotics, even though they have a sterile, non-infectious cyst like bladder, and they think it's a bladder infection. And then all of a sudden now we've just disrupted that gut even more. So we've actually perpetuated that cycle. So you see improvements, and then all of a sudden, maybe weeks or months later, you're stuck in that vicious cycle and the symptoms return. And this is where we have to be asking what is going on in the gut. And we have so many great functional medicine tests now that help make this much easier for pet parents, even at home testing, to get an idea where those imbalances are. And then once again, of course, a lot of great tools to really support digestion, which we'll talk about today.
It's remarkable what's out there now. I mean, when one of my cats was diagnosed with cancer, we did a whole gut panel. It was remarkable. I just can't believe how far we've come, and the information. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I think too, on that, it's really important for every pet parent listening here is that a lot of these functional medicine tests are not being taught yet in vet schools. So when we get new information, when we get new studies, it typically takes 20 years for conventional medicine to catch on. So we have this huge delay. And so this is where, when you are doing these tests, please share them with your conventional veterinarian, because many of these companies also have research articles that you can share to show the science that's occurring behind it. And that's helping to plant the seed. You're not there to convince them that they have to do this, but all we want to do is plant the seed, and hopefully it grows. If not, you did your job, you planted the seed to help further empower your vet, hopefully down the road, to better support their patients too.
It seems like it's a conversation now that's happening more and more. At least when I'm talking to people, I feel like it's the gut. It's the gut. It's the gut.
Yes, definitely.
That's the same in the human world. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mission Meow works with animal biome. So, and that was when we did the gut testing, and the information was invaluable. I mean, it was remarkable and completely changed my cat's quality of life. I mean, honestly, it was that big of a deal.
Yep, definitely. They're really important.
Okay, so we talked a little bit before, so let's dive into a little bit deeper. Cat food marketing can be confusing for pet owners, to say the least. If people remember just one simple principle when evaluating cat food, what do you think that should be?
So it's like for us, right? Hopefully people are starting to learn to read ingredient lists and labels. I think that's really important for, even non-food related things, is better understanding what do these chemicals mean if we're seeing like a chemical name, even if you don't understand what it means. And cats are obligate carnivores. So they actually do not require carbohydrates. Sometimes we will use carbs for the medicinal properties of the food, for antioxidants or prebiotic food source for the microbiome to support a healthy gut. But this is where we should be feeding like an animal protein first, and you want a named protein on that label. I don't want to see things like meat meal that can indicate a rendered product, which is essentially a really poor quality meat that's not fit for human consumption, that's used for pet food, unfortunately. And it also doesn't tell you what type of meat is being used, because it's a mishmash that's heavily processed that's being utilized for a lot of these pet foods. Now, marketing is an interesting thing, because you'll see like pictures of blueberries, and you'll see like chickens and happy animals, right? And this is where seeing those really happy pictures and things like that tells me nothing about the food. And so once again, going to the ingredient list and looking for animal proteins, we're seeing recognizable ingredients. We're looking for minimally processed foods. Now, keep in mind, there will probably be some synthetic vitamins and minerals depending on the type of food that you're feeding. If you're giving like a canned food, that's important. That's needed to actually balance that diet long term. But overall, we don't want to see a bunch of like wheat gluten for our cats. They don't need that. That's going to create gut health issues and inflammation, and that's going to lead to potential health issues down the road. So those are key things that I'm always looking at when we're assessing like cat food specifically.
And these are questions. I mean, I've brought cans of food along with me to the vet to talk to my vet about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that people can do, or, if you don't recognize
Google.
something, Google it, find out what it is.
Yeah, I think this is where we are in like the era of information that's easy to access. And so keep in mind, there is a lot of varying information. You can see both sides.
Yeah.
But, if you don't understand an ingredient, there's, the truthaboutpetfood.com is a great resource from Susan Thixton that I highly recommend every single cat and dog parent go to better understand what those ingredients mean. And then also a lot of free tools and resources. She also has a list of pet food brands that she
And
puts out
recalls
and
all
recalls,
that important
everything. Yeah. So
yeah.
that's probably like the number one website I think anyone, especially in the USA, but even worldwide, should take a look at, because that information can be extrapolated even if you don't live here in the States.
There's so much opportunity for pet parents to be a part of this and educate themselves, for the betterment of their cats, specifically in this conversation. Okay, so we've talked about internal health, nutrition. Let's shift to something that's also very important. We love talking about environmental enrichment. So Catherine is going to take this part, and so we can talk about cat grass and natural plants and other types of enrichment that are available to pet parents.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Katie. Now that cats are often indoors, they don't always have access to the natural behaviors they experience outside. So from your perspective, what psychological benefits might cat grass offer?
Yeah, this is something I live with my 3 kitties running around every day. That's really important. And I look at essentially the act of interacting with grass. That's like whole body wellness is how I look at it. And so it's the natural behaviors. It's an oral like stimulation too. And also too, it's when we look at the physiological aspect, the digestive fiber, so insoluble fiber with a lot of these grasses is going to help with gut motility. It also helps them process if, the hairballs, they're naturally grooming. They're very clean creatures. And so this helps them process the hairballs, but also move things in the motility with the gut. And then also too, looking at from a perspective of, if they do eat something that irritates them, they will eat more grass to actually bring it back up, to vomit it. Now, vomiting is an interesting concept. Vomiting all the time is not a normal behavior for a cat. That's really important. This should be very rare, and it shouldn't be something where you're like, yeah, my cat always vomits. If you're saying that, there's probably something else going on. We need to look deeper. But this is where cat grass just is a really nice tool that supports both digestion and that emotional well-being, because it's a safe chewing outlet. I know personally, I love plants. I have all sorts of plants all around me in my household. And if I do not offer them the ability to chew on grass, they're going to go and chew on something else. So, right? Like they love spider grass, by the way. Like, so this is where I want to make sure there's a nice, safe option for them. And we'll talk a little bit more about like the plant compounds that are in that food outside the fiber, because there are great nutritional components too that support optimal health in our cats also.
So it supports both instinct and digestion, cat grass does, is what you're saying. And you kind of did explain some of the science behind why cats are naturally drawn to grasses. Is it just, it seems that the science out there is there's some studies coming out, but it's still limited in why they're so attracted to grasses.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? We'll hear like if they eat grass, it means that their stomach's upset. And I think you can see that. That is something, once again, looking and observing your cat's behaviors and what they're doing is really important. But this is where a lot of times, like my cats are eating the grass, they're not vomiting. So they're enjoying it for the other properties, whether it's that emotional or whether it's supporting their gut health or whether it's the nutritional component where they're looking for those B vitamins or even the chlorophyll that's really rich in these grasses. And so the other thing too is when we think about like a wild cat, what are they doing when they're eating prey? They're going to be eating the stomach contents, which is we're going to have plant material in there. So that plant material is usually fermented and broken down, but this is one of those instinctual behaviors that cats do have. So once again, it's an important component of bringing the outside in for our indoor cats, because I know this guy over here, Tico, he was a rescue. He was an outdoor cat. And so he will make it well known when he wants to go outside, and we will have outdoor time together, because it's not safe in Colorado to be outside roaming around with all the predators we have. And I also, my heart can't take it not knowing where he's at. So let's be real. So this is where he will go, and I grow different types of plants and herbs, and he will go and sit with them and engage with them and self-select them. But then I also have cat grass inside for him too. So this is really important. My other 2 cats indoor only, making sure that they have the option of self-selecting those grasses if they want to, and having different options for them too is really beneficial, because they have different beneficial properties to each type of grass also.
Oh, that's interesting to talk about too. But so can we go back to the vomiting, because we always have people concerned about giving their cats grass because they may vomit. And
so
here's that a bad choice.
So I think it's one of those things, like we usually have cat grass down all the time. And this is where I have a senior cat who's 16, and her stomach is a little bit more sensitive than my other 2 cats, but she really does like eating cat grass. Sometimes she will vomit. And so it's one of those things where I'm always looking at the other behaviors. What is she showing me? Is she eating well? What's her energy levels like? Is she playing? Looking at, I can do a physical exam on her, of course, but these are, and blood work, routine wellness checks with your vet. Those are key important factors too, to make sure that there's nothing creeping up or other health concerns that are going on that are creating that symptom that you're seeing. However, for the most part, I don't worry when I see it if it happens, because otherwise she's acting fine and her behaviors are fine and her appetite is fine. So I think it's one of those things, if you start noticing your cat is eating more grass, once again, and bringing up more vomit, they're vomiting more frequently, that's a change. And that's like a check engine light coming on that tells us there's an imbalance going on that we need to investigate. So that's how I look at it. I think that the pros versus cons of eating that type, beneficial grass, the pros definitely outweigh the cons in that situation. I think too, for other people, and one of the things I really like with the pet greens and like making sure that cat parents are feeding organic greens is really, really important. And this is where, if you let your cat outside and they go and they eat the lawn grass, this can be pesticides, insecticides, and it's not necessarily if you're spraying, it's your neighbor or 7 miles away is spraying, that will be on the grass that they're eating. So this is why also too, using healthy sources that are organic and the sourcing and where it's come from is really key and like really important for their overall health too.
Right. And then indoors, it keeps them safe from toxic indoor houseplants that you may have. Also
correct. Yeah. Like my pothos behind us, right? Like, I mean, if they chew on that, it is one of on the list of like a cat should not, they don't touch it. They've never touched them. And that's because, once again, environmental enrichment, making sure we're feeding a species appropriate diet. We're giving them cat grass. We're meeting their emotional health needs too. They don't feel a need to go and chew on something that can aggravate their gut.
Right.
And I found when I'm having the grass out and available, that it's actually helped with reducing the hairballs. It's helping my cats move it through. So I just want people to know that, because I know it's come up about the vomiting, but my guys, when they're eating the grass, are actually passing, their hairballs more easily.
Yeah, there's a new study out. I don't know if you read it, Dr. Katie, but about the barbarous kind of fiber and the way it's positioned on the grass, how it pulls out hair, how it
onto it.
Yeah, how it attaches to the hair and it helps it out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this is really important. Like our cats, even though they're carnivores, they need these fiber sources. So that's really important. Otherwise, things will get backed up and get stuck. So I just wanted to bring up my kiwi, because I think there's, it's not always 100% this or 100% that. Right. And so giving people peace of mind too, that if you do see a little bit of vomit, once again, you're observing those other factors too, to see, is my cat still feeling really good, or is there something off? Because I do find that sometimes people will shift away from a cat grass and say it's harmful, when in reality, they still need it and it's still beneficial for them.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that for people, because that's a common thing that we come up against. far as cat grass and cats go. I'd like to talk about another plant that Pet Greens has that cat owners are familiar with, which is catnip. Catnip contains a compound called neptalactone. I think I pronounced that correctly. How does that affect cats' brains and behavior?
Yeah. So, catnip, it's funny. Catnip gets this, like, it makes every cat crazy and, it has this, and it doesn't. But what essentially is happening when a cat either ingests it or smells it, it's stimulating the olfactory receptors. It's sending a signal to the brain. And this is where we can see three different types of behavior. Sometimes it will be like more stimulating. So you might see them get more aroused, more excitable, they're more playful. Sometimes that can lead to, if you have multi-cat households, you can see redirected aggression too, if it's too much for them. I think that's something that can happen.
The zoomies.
The zoomies, you can get zoomies. And you can also see too a relaxation effect. I tend to see that with my cats when they consume catnip. They don't get over aroused. They just very calming. It's very beneficial for them. The other neat thing, the other property with catnip is that it actually helps support gut health. It's a natural appetite stimulant. So that's something too, when you're offering that, it can be really beneficial for those. And then the other thing, because there is a genetic component with whether or not a cat will respond to it, sometimes you see nothing at all. So I think this is where there's other beneficial herbs that you can use, like your silver vine is a common one that comes up.
Yeah.
If you're using something to kind of help stimulate them, cats who are not reacting to catnip will typically respond to your silver vine. But when we're looking at that stimulation, it's not a forever thing either. I think that's a misconception of like, it gives them all day energy. It's typically about 5 to 15 minutes from my understanding, with like a cat gets like that boost, or they relax and then they kind of go on with the rest of their day.
Catherine, I like that.
So how do
your catnip, because I get the delivery. Some cats, some of my cats who don't respond to the dried catnip prefer
the
live catnip.
Yeah, it's a lot stronger.
Yeah, I just think it's important to know that just because you've tried dried catnip at home doesn't mean don't give this a try. My guys love the live catnip.
I think the thing
also replant it too.
I love that. I love that you're able to plant it and keep it going. The other thing too, to go back to Sally's comment about the dried catnip, is a lot of times they're poor quality sources. And so you don't know how long it's been sitting in that bag. And also too, has it lost the smell? Does it it's probably not, or it may not be organic also. So I think this is where it's really nice. The Pet Greens, like, it's so beautifully presented too. Like when I opened that box, I was like, this is amazing. So, putting down the fresh catnip, and all three of my cats went right over to it. And one of my cats has cerebellar hypoplasia, and he doesn't usually eat the cat grass. He'll kind of like bob at it sometimes, but that's just like one of his limitations. He went over to the catnip and started picking at it. And I was like, this is so beautiful. So.
Nice. I'm glad they liked it. So that kind of talks about the well-being for indoor cats. It can stimulate appetite, can stimulate play, right? And the other things that you mentioned. And some cats do get playful, while other cats get calm. Can you tell us what these reactions tell us about your cat?
Yeah. So I think this is something where, I never look at it as anything as like bad or good necessarily. It's just giving us information. Same with like symptoms. It's not necessarily like, or side effects. Side effects is one of the things, like you give something, you see a side effect. All I look at is that's information. And so when you're seeing these different responses, when you give catnip, once again, if it's driving play and making your like cat more energetic and things, like, great, utilize that, break up the monotony of the day to help them play, incorporate that with, some of the other environmental enrichment tools and, playing with them. And then if your cat is more stressed out or anxious, or there's other, we all go through different phases of life. I don't know. I don't think there's one person in this world that can say in the last 5 years they haven't felt stress, right? And so this is where, if you have a cat that is really responsive to the environment, and you're in this phase of life where you're doing the best that you can, you're trying to keep the routine the same, but maybe it can't be the same every day, and you notice that your cat's response is calming with catnip, utilize that. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful plant to be able to help support them emotionally, to help calm down that stress for them. So that's a really nice thing. And then if you see nothing, once again, like make sure that you haven't just put down like dried catnip and made a decision, try the fresh plant. But this is also where I use a lot of self-selection with cats and herb gardens. And this is where, introducing other things, you can try the silver vine. This is where I'll use things like valerian root. I'll use chamomile flowers. You can try other types of grasses too. I love that your Pet Greens has different types of grasses. It's not just one, because I've grown a lot of cat grass through the years with my cats, and you usually have like one grass. You don't have that combination. So I love that it has a combination of different types of grasses too, for them to self-select what their body is wanting and needing at that time.
Yeah, our live is wheatgrass. We used to do a multi-grass live one, but it was too hard to grow both. So we just have the wheatgrass and the live, and then we have the kits with the 3 different kinds of grasses.
Yep.
Available. Yeah. Yeah. So is there any time situations where you'd recommend limiting catnip, or is it okay to give them what they might want?
Once again, it depends on the response, right? So I think this is where if a cat is getting overstimulated with it, you don't want to use it all the time. So keep in mind also, if a cat's getting overstimulated and maybe there's some other like behavioral things going on in multi-cat households, and you're seeing like redirected aggression, you have to be careful, right? Like, so that's where I would limit that. I would focus more on like calming herbs instead for self-selection, if that was the situation. If they're like gorging on the catnip and then bring it like vomiting all the time because they're like, this is so good, right? It's like, I think it's like the potato chip commercial, right? Once you pop, you can't stop. So like more is not good for you, right?
Time to put the catnip away, right?
Yes, exactly. Like, okay, I know you like it, buddy, but this is too much. And so I think that's really important also, is just recognizing like, what is that moderation? Everything in moderation, right? We want that balance. We don't want too much. We don't want too little. Moderation is where the key is. So I'd be looking at those behaviors and then assessing, okay, my cat does well with like once a day catnip for this period of time. I remove it, and then we offer it again, like in the morning, if that's a situation.
That's great information. I haven't really thought of catnip in such a broad way before. And you've touched on many different things that a lot of people haven't talked about in regards to catnip. So thank you. So I wanted to talk to you about, what would your 3 simple things that you could tell cat owners to try today for indoor wellness and gut health? Like if you were to pick 3 things, the 3 most important things that come to your mind.
Yep. So this is where, obviously we've been talking a lot about cat grass. Really important. If you've never tried it, today's the day. I think, take a step in and give it a try. Once again, it supports the physiology, and it's also supporting the environmental enrichment, and it's also supporting emotional health for your cat. So I think it's such a beautiful product that combines all 3 of those things to really help support. And it's easy to do. It doesn't require anything from us. It just literally, you put it down and allow them to self-select what they need. So that's really important. I think the other thing too, that I find a lot of times my clients just aren't aware of with their cats, is really looking at feeding time. Like, are we just putting down food and walking away, or are we actually stimulating that prey drive and really helping them engage to keep them excited about their food? Because I know if I get busy, and I'll be fully transparent, I'm not always 100% on this. If we're like too busy, or like, there's a lot going on, I may not pull out the enrichment for my cat and stimulate like the hunt. Right. And so this is where there's some really neat tools, like hiding the food in the little like mice and hiding them around the house. You can help stimulate that normal prey drive. So I think that's important. Thinking about, how can I enrich food time also? So that's really important also. And then the other thing with that is thinking about what do cats do in the wild? They're going to have play before they eat. Right. So this is something too, if you can just engage with them before you feed them, that's going to mimic that natural like cycle that they would normally go through and get them ready. And then the food is the reward. A lot of times we play with them and we don't reward them. So it's like very dissatisfying for a cat. So that's something also to keep in mind around playtime. And then the final thing is once again, become the observer of your cat. So this is where everything is information, as I've already mentioned. And so looking at what is going on with the stool quality, do they have hairballs? What's the frequency of the hairballs? Are they vomiting? What is the frequency?
Mhm.
What does their coat look like? Do they have dander? The other thing too is looking at their energy levels and their emotional health, because symptoms are essentially clues where your cat needs additional support. And so that's where we can utilize all these tools together to really optimize the holistic part of their overall wellness to truly create that optimal health for the cat. So just, simple things. And I always say to choose one thing and start with that. Keep it very simple, because it can be very overwhelming for people, especially with like the crazy world we live in. So choose one thing, get that nailed down, create that habit, then move on to the next thing if this is feeling a little overwhelming. And that's where cat grass is great. Put down the pet greens. Super simple, super easy.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Dr. Katie.
I feel like those routines can be fun too. Like I've made mealtime really fun. I mean, they get excited about it. I've taken to also trimming a little of the cat grass off and sprinkling it on and using it as a topper. And it's been something in the past, because my background's in behavior, the cat grass was helpful for some cats with litter box aversion. Putting some cuts some greens in there would encourage them to use the litter box. So
I love that. I didn't know that.
No, that's a new
great
idea.
Yeah, that had been really helpful. So there's so many ways. And I love the play before eat routine. Like my cats, like it's a thing now, and they're kind of like, if I'm in a hurried day, they're like, wait, what's going on? And it's fun for me. I get to see their personalities really come alive. And we have licky mats, and sometimes we bring in the licky mats. So they're really hunting for their food. And it's just as much fun for me, to be perfectly honest. And I love that's good bonding time. And same with bringing in the grass. They love, like, I'm presenting it. So I feel like I'm such a part of it. And it's a good time to bond. And we've talked about it before. I'll hide the grass too. Like if I know I'm going out and my guys are good. Like I wouldn't do this if my guys were all in and finishing the grass. Like if it was, one of those situations, but they love looking for it.
I love that.
That's fun too.
Lots of different ways to use it. Okay. So, we're going to take a step back a little bit, and we're going to talk about the best way for pet parents to balance nutrition, enrichment, and emotional care, the balance of all of this. So food, environment, stimulation.
Yeah, I think this is where it goes back to essentially the whole conversation we've been having, right? It's literally thinking about where can we improve things. And this is, once again, not thinking about enrichment as separate from physical health. Everything is intertwined. And so that's the key, like the things you're doing to optimize physical health, if that's feeding a, biologically appropriate diet and adding omega-3s or whatever that looks like for your cat and their life phase they're in, that's supporting that physical health. But then also too, looking at, okay, how can I support their emotional health? How can I support their environmental health? And once again, it's observing what works best for your pet and keeping in mind every cat is an individual. My cats are all so different. I have a younger one. Well, they're both middle-aged now, two middle-aged and one older cat, and their needs are very different. I make a joke. He's a bush cat. He likes being low. And then we have my Kiwi likes to be up high. My cerebellar hypoplasia cats all over the place. So once again, making sure that their physiological needs and their emotional needs are being met with different tools in my house to help them feel really, really supported. And then also to making sure their natural instincts are feeling supported. And that goes back to everything that we just talked about, especially Sally, what you mentioned too, with a lot of those behavior tips and tools too, to really help engage them. And that's, once again, that is the true holistic approach. Has nothing to do with not using conventional medications.
I think you said something interesting in there too, that we as pet parents need to be aware that these things are going to change as our cats age, right? A cat may have been more of a tree dweller when they were young and may be more the bush cat when they get a little bit older. So we may be needing to change their environment and their nutrition as they go through the age cycles.
100%. A kitten is not the same as a senior cat. And so once again, my Kiwi cat, I feel very grateful. She's flies through the sky. Like, she loves jumping and, playing, and she loves her bird toys and things like that, and running. She runs like a crazy, crazy kitty. And I love that. But also too, I'm able to see where, if she's over grooming a certain spot, making sure that I'm supporting reducing inflammation, I'm supporting her joints and things like that. So once again, observing what's happening, what's shifted as we go through the years as they age.
So important. Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe we could talk a little bit about the subtle signs that pet parents should look for that's showing enrichment's working, right?
Yeah. So this is where I hear it all the time. You probably hear it too. Like, my cat just sleeps all day, right?
Yes.
So a sleeping cat all day is not necessarily a normal behavior. I think as they age, yes, just like we do. I'm not expecting my 75-year-old mother to go and run a marathon if she's never been a runner, right? Like, so keeping that in mind. But this is where you're going to see more engagement. That's really fun. Seeing like kind of the bond strengthen essentially when you're seeing enrichment working. I noticed that with my own cats. You're going to see also too, like we talked about, the nutritional and physiological benefits. Also, if you're introducing cat grass, their digestion improves. So once again, does their coat quality improve? Also, you might notice that too, because they're extracting those nutrients, they're breaking down their food, things are moving better, the motility is better in the gut. The other thing too is the behavior side, the emotional health side. Are they more calm? Are you seeing less potentially reactive or anxious behaviors if that was the starting place when you introduce these things? The other thing too is because we're helping them engage with their environment and we're giving them new things, this is where they become more curious. So a lot of times you'll just notice that once again, it comes back down to more engagement, and they just seem happier. Is something where I don't want to project human emotions on a cat, but we can all tell, I'm sure you can agree, like we can tell when our cats feel happy and they're feeling good and things like that too. So I find a lot of times when we start introducing enrichment, it can take time. That's something to keep in mind too. You put down pet greens, they might not go for it right away, but keep introducing it. Don't just stop with one introduction. And that's the same with toys. Find what works best for your cats and what they enjoy. And then look for some of those subtle changes that can indicate that what you're doing is really supporting them and helping them.
I have found that, and I start my cats very young. I'm one of those. I'm always touching ears, paws, because it's good for handleability. It makes vet visits easier. I start brushing my cats at a very young age. And that, I think, is something that people don't think about as enrichment so much, but it's good for keeping the hairballs reduced. And I'm telling you, when I pull that Kong brush out, I have a toy bin. When I pull that, it's like planes on a tarmac. They all come into the room. They all know that it's brushing time. It's good for them. It's enriching for them. It's happiness. I love doing it. And it's reducing the hairballs. So I think that's another thing that can go along with all the things we talked about. I love that time grooming my cats.
I love that. I think one of the things too with my older Kiwi cat, if I'm cooking in the kitchen, she sits on our counter. She sits on my island. That's just
you just it's out there.
We're cat parents, so I just clean it. Right? We don't really use it for.
We
our
do
food
not
prep.
judge.
So she sits there, and she's a talker, and she'll talk to me. And this is where offering safe little bits of meats or things like that too, as a different engagement, and then offering things I'll offer your fermented goat's milk or a little bit of a sardine, or, this is where I can introduce more of clipping the cat grass too and see how she engages with that also. But, look at where your cat's also wanting attention or really engaging with you, and then see what can I enhance in this environment for them too. Because that's one thing I've noticed with her. The other two don't do it so much, but she really just sits there and talks to me the whole time, which I love.
It's love.
Yeah.
It's love. It's how she's showing love. It's how we are showing love in return.
Definitely.
Oh, I love that. So this has been wonderful. Before we wrap things up, can you let our viewers know where they can connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so you can go to thenaturalpetdoctor.com. We also have a YouTube channel, so Dr. Katie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor, also on Facebook and Instagram. So the Natural Pet Doctor, tried to keep it super easy. And we offer one-off like gut health audits, and then we have a lot of courses and tons of free education information too in our blogs and videos that we share each week.
Maybe next time, Katie, we'll have to talk to you about dogs.
Yeah, I love talking about both. So yeah.
Yeah.
So for more enrichment tips and cat grass resources, you can follow at Pet Greens on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or visit petgreens.com. For me, if you would like to know more about the work that Mission Meow does, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mission Meow, or go to missionmeow.org. So before we go, we have one final question. Dr. Woodley, what is the one message that you hope viewers take away about helping their indoor cats truly thrive inside?
I love this question. It kind of goes back to what I've already mentioned, but this is where keep it simple, start with one thing and make it fun. So, whether it's adding the cat grass through Pet Greens or introducing a new play activity before you feed, I think this is where just have fun with it and keep it simple. And that's a lot of times all that we need to really help our indoor cats feel their best and actually truly thrive.
I couldn't imagine better advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Katie.
Thank you, Dr. Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.